Hello, my name is Svetlana Stone. You're watching Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And we are pleased to have here at Public Media Network Renata Artman Knific to talk about what it takes to be a musician at 21st century. Thank you, Renata, for coming here.
Thank you.
We're so pleased to have you.
I really appreciate.
How are you? How was your day?
Day has been great. Last weekend we've seen whole family gathered together, and the best, you know. Family is the best.
Yeah, family is important. That's great. Yeah. I would like to learn how you are get to Kalamazoo. What are you doing? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my journey is pretty long and deep in emigration. So I started in Poland, in Warsaw, where I was raised, and then I moved to London to study, where I also work with English Chamber Orchestra, BBC, and did a lot of performing. And then I had fabulous jobs. I was very young, so I decided, well, how about studying a little bit more? So I moved to America and almost went to New York to Juilliard, but there was a phenomenal teacher in Cleveland. And that brought me to Cleveland, Ohio, where I, again, started performing and doing a lot of work in performance idiom. But then I got kind of very interested because of that particular teacher in teaching. So here I went and started. My first teaching job was in Interlochen Arts Academy. I used to practice 6 hours or more, and I wasn't too tired by 3 hours of teaching. I thought I was dying.
That's true.
So something I had to accomplish and learn. It was, so fortunate because there's so much talent there. So they were my first footstep in teaching and sharing them. So I am very fortunate because I'm managed in my life to do all kinds of genres of music, all idioms. I mean, everything from chamber music. Then out of Interlochen, we got invited with Tom to audition. They were trying to get the string department sort of boosted. So we auditioned, and at that point, it was funny because our first child was only 3 months, and I was wondering, what am I doing? But that was 35 years ago or something like that. And we moved here to work at Western, where we worked for 33 years and retired a couple of years ago. Wonderful work. First, the teaching part. You really meet individuals, and you're like a mom to many hundreds of people now, So that's so precious. There's so few things are being taught that way. Usually it's class or few people. You're one-on-one, which is almost doesn't exist anymore, And then, of course, I had a performance career with the trio, and we did over 20 to 40 concerts a year. So that was the chamber music, and it grew to something really very, very special, and also helped spread the word about Western. And we were performing and meet all kinds of students all over, all over the United States and outside. So I'm really, it's hard work, but I'm fortunate to get it all in as much as possible, So that's kind of my journey. I'm always looking for challenges. Because that's what grows your brain a little bit.
Renata, and you mentioned a string department. Could you please tell us what instrument you're playing, how old you were when you were introduced to music, and when you realized that this is your passion?
Well, when I was about 8 years old, my father used to play violin, but of course, Second World War and all the situation forbade him from continuing. So he sort of played the violin at home, and I became the extension of his wishes. But when I felt, and of course went to schools in Warsaw and got pretty rigorous training there. When I went to London, and then I was like sort of 18 by myself, you know, when you end up by yourself with almost no support, nothing, you discover yourself. And at that point, I really, really fell in love in playing violin. I couldn't stop practicing. It was, it has to become...
Because it was your dad's wishes.
Right, so I enjoyed it, but it was still like this deal, you know, Dad and me, you know, and I had to practice and all that stuff. Well, then I wanted to practice. I wanted to be there. I wanted to learn music. So that was like such an amazing, my journey really, I would say, started there, because that's when you really pushing yourself and doing things because you want to do them, not because you should do them. You know, so yeah, so London was phenomenal for me, Royal College of Music, and one of these teachers that really totally sold me on making music. You know, she was phenomenal. So a couple of years and I was totally in. And into performance, I always listened to people and helped out, but I never taught. I mean, I did a little bit, you know, when you're a student, you do some work because just to cover your bills, but it wasn't like a real teaching job or something. So it was mostly performing until pretty much I end up in Cleveland, so many years, and then Interlochen, as I said, was the first time I started teaching. So
what do you like more?
I think, you know, music. Because you play doesn't mean you can teach.
That's true.
And I do think that one helps the other. And I do think that with me, I live and breathe being able to play. But I also found that it's like a whole another thing that I really enjoy is being with young people and making diagnose, you know, like you listen and you want to make them sound better, do better, expand, be freer, you know, all these things that go into not just the technique on violin. Sometimes it's all the, not psychology because I'm not trained, but just building them as people that they can, because music is, as you know, is not the easiest train to ride, you know. So yeah, so that really excites me, but I don't know how easy it would be for me to teach if I didn't go and perform. So it is hard, very challenging that you're on the road and you come back making up. You know, I had a studio of way over 20 students that I taught weekly, so I would come back and make up, but the excitement of a performance, to come back to the student and have that feel for it, I would never, you know, it would be hard for me to, like, I would miss that, you know, that input. But, you know, older you get, I had lots of teachers that when they were older, they sort of retire slightly from performing and continue teaching. But you're basing still your teaching on a lot of experience too. I think that what brings full teacher aspect to it, you know. So I don't know if I answer your question. Yeah, but, you know, I don't think they just go, but if I had to, somebody said to me a few years ago.
Each other, so.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, when you teach, your performance comes in. I'm always hands-on with an instrument. When you perform certain things, you know, sometimes you go to yourself, oh, you tell your students to practice this and that. How about you? You know, so that it just goes together, you know.
Speak about practice and the hard work that you invest. You mentioned that when you, at your earlier age, you were practicing like 6 hours, but then you got teaching job, and it was like nothing to compare with that.
Yeah.
So could you
Well,
tell us what is like behind your beautiful performance and your professional teaching when you come to the students? What kind of job and what does it take you, you know, to be a musician and performer, artist right now in our
well, yeah,
time?
it starts. It really when you're young. There is something about instrument and sports that sort of goes together. Is the training of muscles. And muscles are not very smart. You have to put your brain to muscles and train the muscle memory, which doesn't make music, but it gives you tools then to go from your noodle heart to muscles. Because I do think that sometimes when you don't have achieved certain amount of efficiency on the instrument, I'm doing this, could be that, it stifles what you have to say. Up to a point, obviously, especially in classical music, I would say violin and piano are one of those instruments that we have so much repertoire and so much background in great artists and great performers, and that the bar is pretty high. That doesn't mean that you should practice and whip yourself in a way of, well, if I don't do this, no, I want to do this. There's a positive in it, and there can be very negative in it. Positive in it is, I want to sound a certain way. I want to do this. I want to be able to do this. That's what drives you, and of course, good teaching. So, yes, I practice. My dad was very involved in that, let's put it that way. But once I realized, and this teacher pushed me with a lot of repertoire.
You talk about the one that is in
London, yeah.
In London. Mm-hmm.
She just thought I had all the chops I needed. I'm sure I didn't, but she would be I was learning all this repertoire, and you know, you need hours to practice. Sometimes students said, well, you know, you should practice minimum of something. Well, to me, it depends what you're doing, how much. I mean, you can't practice for 2 hours just your open strings, so a couple of things. You build on a lot of different, you know, exercises, aspects of you know, and then different levels. You know, your first preparation, of course, is more physical. You're learning what this is about, and then once you master this, because the genius is for us is in music that was written, but we have to digest it and feel it to reproduce it. So it becomes our piece of music, but it still was written by someone else, you know. So that's why I envy jazz musicians who can just, and I sometimes love playing with them because I can pretend that I'm. But really, sorry, my eyes are. But really, there's so many levels of practice, and then the last 25% I feel is the hardest, because that's when you're making decisions. You know, how are you going to do this? What's the meaning of this? You know, what is the you listen to performances, but you shouldn't sound like someone else. You should sort of be inspired and figure out. So that's hard, and that takes years. And I do things every time you come back to the piece, you go like, wow, never thought of that. And that's a very cool realization. You know, you play some sonata that you played before or concerto, and then you get to perform again. And you go like, I did what? but you know, it's the new growth change. I don't think you can, the only wrong you can do in music if you don't do anything with it, you know, so it's personal. And everybody's journey, that's the beauty of it, of arts. Everybody's journey is different. So you get the discipline, you get the information, people can guide you on that track, but you have to take off, you know, it's your own, you know, and that's good and bad. Good because, my gosh, we are very lucky to be doing what we love. I feel that's like amazing because we get so excited and high from performing and being with people and being admired and all that stuff. Of course, it takes hard work, but then, you know, so we get that part. But what people see, you probably saw those pictures, and just the top of the part of everything that goes in it, you know. So we shouldn't on a stage show the work, but a lot of it goes into it, you know. A lot of how do I say, not the sacrifice, but commitment to the point you can't live without it. So when I taught in Interlochen, and some kids, you know, that was high school, and they were going to music or not, and they say, should I go into music? My first question, can you live without it for 1 minute? If you can, don't.
That's a good question.
Because, no, I mean, we all sort of have our moments, like, I could sell my violin really cheap then. It's like, take it. Because it's the other side of it, you know, you get tired, you get frustrated, you get exhausted, you know, but which profession doesn't do that? I just think we're very lucky to have the input that we get from this stage, that lots of hardworking scientists and others, that they're behind the doors and they don't get this, you know.
And music is so important. It's like the artists, musicians, they speak the truth through their music, through their art. What you speak, or what kind of message you would speak through your music?
I think if it's such an international language, I feel that if we brought to politics and everybody had to play chamber music, we would do much better. We might kill one another, but much better. I would like to give people an experience, something that I might feel or I experience in my life. The sorrows and the happiness and everything that goes into it, because music is written under certain influence. You know, you're supposed to dance, cry, sing. You know, I mean, let's face it. I also live for new music too, because we need to. You can't live in 19th century or our lives, but music speaks better than words in my book. So if I can talk with the sound, tell a story, or express the feeling, so people sitting there don't think of, oh, she's okay violinist. They just close their eyes and feel something. So I take them away from their routine. I take them away from their world, take them somewhere that they feel that they experience feelings, whatever they may be. Sometimes they may be very powerful and sad because some music takes you there. Sometimes they can be very joyous, and you know. I never forget, I performed after 9/11. I had a recital. In fact, I was in, what was I, Memphis, I think? And when when the towers got hit. And we talk with Tom, you know, when we're on the road. So first thing, oh yes, I'm going to the airport, and I thought CNN on, and I thought I put some kind of wrong channel on. That I'm watching some crazy movie that the planes are running into buildings, you know, and then I realized what happened. So we drove back. We never took car back. Drove back, and I was supposed to play a recital like 4 days later, maybe 5 days later at Western. And it was like, do I play? Don't I play? Do I play? You know, it's like, what do you do? And I decided, no, I'm going to go ahead and play. And we all, you know, and there were lots of people thank me because for first time, for a few minutes or whatever the time, they could stop thinking about it because they heard music. So, you know how it was on our minds, some things just don't leave you. Maybe I gave them a few minutes of...
It's very powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So to me, that's like sort of more of what I feel you should not, when you're performing or you're listening, you should hear sounds of emotion or story or something, not, oh, there's violin, you know. So if hopefully that, well, I mean, that was almost my goal. You know.
Thank you.
No, you're so welcome.
Thank you. We are here at Public Media Network with Renata Artman Knific to talk about what it takes to be artist, musician in 21st century. And thank you again, Renata, for joining us. I'm excited to learn more about what artist faces and these days, because we don't really see what is going on behind the scenes. So, and if you could tell us what the biggest challenges you believe the artists and musicians are facing today.
Well, the most obvious, the pandemic, and you know, lack of survival of institutions and promoters and orchestras and live performance, which is essential. However, I feel that there's always the other side to this coin. Every bad time creates new opportunities, or new discoveries, or ability to go beyond it. Yes, we don't like being on Zoom, and however, Zoom and new ways of communicating. I mean, so many years ago, we would have to travel to India to hear music, or to China, and it was so exotic. Now you just press a button and you hear anything you want. So the music being, for example, composed, then it's more influence, right? With us, it's okay so CDs are no longer maybe, but musicians collaborate now across the world. Tom and I did, for example, for a bass convention, this piece that the bass player from Brazil wrote. He sent music to, I don't know, so many different countries, to different musicians to record just bits and pieces, and he put it together, and that was the kind of a cool performance, you know. So the abilities to, we're really expanding, and we figure it out. The thing is not to dig your heels. That there's, I couldn't in my life. I didn't have that privilege to dig my heel. I'm going to just do this. No, there are a million things. Be always open to the potential. What's the worst? You be in the same place you started. You know, so young people will figure it out. Young people will have it. It's tough, but it's tough right now for everybody. But still, we're well. We have a lot of the opportunities will come back. You know, what kind? Well, I don't know. Maybe there'll be more options, more international interaction. The world is becoming a little smaller from that. Maybe there'll be more compassion driven through different countries and understanding, So I do think that hardship brings new opportunities something good coming from it.
Something good from
you have to think like that. I have to
it,
think.
Yes. Being a musician, we should be
positive. Positive, because
we should be positive,
there's a very quick journey down. So you have to hold on. And it's like, but any profession, it's been hardship for everybody. So, and music and arts can raise life and what do you say, the general feeling of life. I think that's the most alive thing, because it's so creative and it can speak to depths of our soul, so.
My next question is, what is the best advice you ever received from another artist or musician? And what would you advise to our generation, to 21st century musicians at these days?
Yeah, there are many advices along the way. And I always respect and listen to my teachers, of course, but I never forget, it's the same teacher I'm going to bring from London. Isn't that funny? There are two teachers, because there are two different. One is the performing career, one is the teaching career.
Yeah.
And the performing career was, I asked because I was so trained, rigorously in Poland. I said, well, how do you know how to interpret the music? Because she could take a piece of music she didn't even know. She played through and got ideas, She said, well, one day you fall in love with music so much you will know it all. You will know what you want. I thought, that's interesting. It's so true. One day you become such a part of it. Well, not everything, but you really know. You're no longer looking around. You're looking at your own soul, to your own experience. The other thing is with teaching, as Cleveland Institute of Music, when I sort of start going, I really enjoyed this, watching my teacher teach. It was his ability to diagnose, so you listen and you figure out. He always could make someone, his name is David Suron, he always could make someone sound better, meaning whatever advice there was, he gave. And he told me once, he said, because I was like, wow, this student is not listening and this student is not there and there. He said to me, if in a year you have one student that really does you feel well, you're a winner. I was going, oh no. But it's true. Doesn't mean the other's not doing it. It just takes different time to develop different students. So you shouldn't get disappointed, or you should always look for best way to ship your thoughts and your, guidance, to make sure that if it happens in 5 years, great. If it happens in 2 months, great. If it happens because somebody else is doing masterclass and they say something to them that you've been telling them for years, and they go, have you heard of this? No. And it works. It works, you know. So it was very powerful because obviously he taught in Curtis, he got Cleveland Institute, very accomplished teacher. I mean, students all over. So I would say, you know, that those two advices were attached to different parts of my career and desires, you know, to be a good teacher or to be a good performer. What I would advise to young students, young people, young musicians, it's first and foremost, it's never not take opportunity. They come in different, always sound your best, even if you're playing for, oh, this is just blah, wedding, or this is just blah, you know. No, always sound your best. First of all, it represents you.
Yeah,
Second of all, you
agree.
never know who is listening.
Who is listening, and the audience is important.
Yeah. And then the next thing is the opportunities come not always in the biggest job that you ever heard of, you know, playing with Berlin Philharmonic or something, but every opportunity leads to the next step. And so you play for this person, and then you play more, and then you're being heard by this person. Whatever the scenario might be. Now, I'm not saying take every gig coming your way. I'm talking about real opportunities, you know, concerts, meeting people, learning something new, somebody asks you to perform. We need to promote more of 21st century music. Because of pandemic and stuff, please push your colleagues, your composers. There's so much great stuff being written. So that gives you opportunity of premiering stuff. So all these things are never ignore, like sort of say, well, I wait for better thing coming my way. I mean, I'm talking about serious things. I'm always respect the fact if you can make money and survive on playing an instrument, you're doing okay. So whatever it is, you know, I was lucky. I never had to do anything else but play. Well, sometimes I did play just to get dinner, but you know, I still got dinner. But in a long way, you know, all those opportunities. One of my biggest opportunities came when I was trying a bow. I think my teacher knew she was sending me to someone that would listen, because she said, go to the so-and-so and try a bow. And he said, well, what you been doing? I said, well, I've been playing with BBC Scotland and Northern Ireland. And he says, why aren't you in London? I said, well, I have to work, you know. She said, okay, well, make sure you're close to the phone. I'm going, okay. Well, next day I got invited to audition for English Chamber Orchestra, and, you know,
Wow.
it was like...
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's
it
amazing.
really is.
Yeah.
And the next thing that brings me, be always ready. They gave me 24 hours to bring Mozart and showpiece and everything. So if you're practicing and you're ready,
be ready when the opportunity
when the opportunity comes, you should be ready.
You should be ready.
Especially when you're young and they're trying to. So it's a lot of things, but it always is one package. You know, kind of be alert. You know, the opportunities are there, and they will be there. And
continue to master your skills. And,
yeah, as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Renata.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And how our audience can find information about you, if you could tell your website or where they can find your music.
Well, I used to have a website because with Merlin Trio we did so much. Still sort of exists. I have to get my children to do my website. I post a lot what we do, and I've recently been doing a lot with with Jean and Tom Knific. So it's been fun family events.
And tell to our people that Tom is your husband, right?
Yeah.
Because you always mention Tom.
Tom,
So he's also
Tom
a musician.
Knific is my husband,
And he's also a musician.
38 years. So yeah, we started by playing together. Then of course kids, we had two separate as much, and we fought who stays home, who goes on the road. And then now that the children are gone, we can do some of the events together and play together. And
so you
yeah.
have like any YouTube channel or something?
No, the YouTube.
Or
yeah,
website?
if you Google my name, you're going to find
the video of you.
Yeah, videos.
But you don't have like website for right now.
Not yet. No, I used to have the website of Merlin Trio, but it will.
But you also perform, right?
Yeah.
And how people can learn about your performance through Western? Are they newsletter?
Western, no, because I retired.
Oh,
so
yes, you are.
No. Facebook would be very good because
this is how
that's why I try to get for now, the message out whenever we're performing. And,
usually you publish the information on Facebook. Okay.
And with pandemic and everything changing, there was not that much need for the information, and but Facebook was helpful, and now it's time to do something more serious, like have a website. Go to my husband's website, I might be on it.
We'll ask him. We'll ask him in a few minutes.
I should have it, but so far it's been, when you're performing in circles like festivals.
It's gonna be your next project.
Next project.
Next project.
Yes. I'll become savvy in making websites.
It's never too late.
Never too late. No, that's so true. But you get spoiled because when you're doing festival, they publicize. You just give them the information. When you're doing concert, they publicize, or your husband is kind enough to publicize, and I'm overdue for this. Jean, are you hearing this?
Anything else you would like to tell to our audience that maybe we?
No, I just really appreciate what you're doing, bringing people to share, people with experience. We have, for years here, I brought so many students, musicians that stayed here. They're all over the world, and more we talk about it, more we gather, and this is more of a gathering, right? More we can, inspire people. Share with people. I've done quite a few, like now with Zoom, right? Those master classes, I didn't have to go to Utah to do an international master class. I didn't have to go to Nevada. I just sat in my living room. It's not the best, but still, it's another gathering where people can tune in and have that.
And actually,
if it wasn't just in Utah in a concert hall and only local people would show up, that's much smaller. So in some ways, we're talking about opportunities. Well, suddenly everybody was watching from all over, so we share the information and teaching skills and stuff. So, I don't know. I just think that there's no time in the world that there wasn't some kind of problems. This is unusual, but I think we're going to get out of it in a way that will create a lot.
I like it. I like this positive note.
Yeah, I have to push that on young people.
This concludes this episode of Artist Voices, and we are thank Renata for being here, for joining us tonight at Public Media Network, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. Thank you for being with us, and see you next. Bye.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Yeah.
And thank you again,
Renata.
Thank you. It was great. Thanks.